President Biden's being hit with a 1-2 punch following low poll numbers and a disappointing September jobs report. Let's bring in our panel for analysis. Louisiana talk radio show host Jeff Crouere and Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mike.
Let's play a clip from former Trump Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia.
President Biden ran as a moderating influence. He scarcely has control of the Senate, very close in the House, but he's trying to govern as a far more progressive person than he ran. And I think that's disappointed a lot of Americans.
Michael, is that fair? The Senate is 50-50 and House Democrats have a slim majority, right?
You know, I think that the country needs more of a bipartisan effort from Republicans and Democrats. But when you look at what's happened across the country in terms of the job numbers, I think it's important to look at the fact that we slashed benefits and unemployment benefits specifically, while also failing to address the rising COVID-19 numbers in a lot of southern states. And so I think that when we look at the job numbers and look at the president's performance, those have to be counted in.
Speaking of southern states, Jeff, how do you respond to Michael?
Well, I mean, Joe Biden's a disaster, Mike. He's failed in everything, the border, the economy, foreign policy, the military. And I think the American people are just responding to his record. I mean, he ran as this moderate uniter, and he's governed as a far left divider. And this is not a socialist country. And he's really moving in the direction of Bernie Sanders and the far, far left. And that's really, I think, taken Americans by surprise. They don't want it. They're not in favor of it. And the policies don't work. Mike, look at all these far left states. They're disasters. And he's trying to turn America into a larger version of California or New York. And it's just not working.
Let's take a look at some of the latest poll numbers from Quinnipiac. President Biden's handling of the economy, 39% approve, 55% disapprove. From that same poll, Biden overall approval, 38% to 53% disapprove. Michael, how alarming are those numbers in your view?
You know, I think the White House is definitely going to take numbers seriously. The CBS YouGov poll that came out this morning, putting President Biden over 50%, I think was a little more reassuring. But we can't keep talking about this in terms of elections. Yes, midterms are coming up, but when you look at the Build Back Better bill, when you look at reconciliation, what we're really talking about is expanding access to pre-K, talking about bringing down prices for medicine for seniors and expanding access to medicine for individuals all over the country. And I think those are things that when people begin to understand, the bill would become much more popular.
Jeff, what's your take on the slumping poll numbers?
Well, you know, James Carville said many years ago, it's the economy stupid. And even though he's failed everywhere around the world and failed with our military and at the border, when people start having to pay more for gasoline, for groceries at Home Depot, when all of their costs go up, and then they're not getting a rise in their salary, when they're really losing, and that's what's happening with the economy, and inflation is just rearing its ugly head. So he's failing on the economy, and those pocketbook issues are what really drives election results. I know Micah didn't want to talk about the election, but we're only a year away from the midterms, and if the election were held today, I think the Democrats would lose control of the Congress easily. It's those economic issues which really drive the voters the most, and really he's failing tremendously on this, and I don't see this spending package as helping at all, Mike. I think it's just going to drive up inflation more. It's going to lead to higher debt. Our currency is going to be devalued more, so it's just going to create more problems for Joe Biden. So I don't see any relief for Joe Biden on the horizon, Mike.
How do you respond to that, Michael? What about the inflation concerns, obviously troubling everybody, hitting them in the wallet?
It's funny to hear Republicans talk about running up the debt when the Trump tax cuts did just that. They cut taxes for the wealthy and increased tax rates for the lower class. So I don't really take that argument very seriously. But what I will say is that Democrats may not perform as well as we expect in the midterms. I think, you know, the incumbent party normally does lose in the midterms. But when you look to 2024, there certainly was never a President Mitt Romney. President Barack Obama had a historic loss in that election and then turned around in 2012 and defeated Mitt Romney and recaptured the White House. So I think we need to focus right now on policies and less on elections.
Okay, we heard Michael's take on the monthly jobs report. Jeff, 194,000 jobs created in September. Markets were expecting 500,000. How do you assess that number?
Well, it's terrible. And a lot of small businesses are hurting because they can't find employees. So businesses are now having to close their doors. We have a real problem, I think, and the backbone of our economy is small business. And it really seems like there's an attack on small business going on for the entire stretch of the Biden administration. And again, this plan, Mike, which is coming up, which could be a compromised $2.5 trillion, $3 trillion, whatever they come up with, that's not going to help the average American. I think it's just going to increase our costs. Taxes are going to go up. It's going to make inflation go up. Now, Michael was talking about the Trump years. Remember, we had unemployment down to 3.5%. Gasoline was, I think, about $1.50. I'll take those kind of numbers versus what we're seeing under Joe Biden. Everything is higher now, and that's really impacting Americans, and the poll numbers are going down as a result.
All right, Jeff Crouere, Michael Starr Hopkins, gentlemen, we have to